News Radio 700 WLW.
So a lot of kids are either in school or about to go back to school. Labor Day is coming up, and some school systems just delaying opening of schools for a bit because of COVID and other reasons. But invariably, what you've done to get your kid ready to go back to school is buy the normal stuff, pencils and papers and pens and backpacks and maybe some new clothing. But along the way, and maybe every day, you're going to have to pack your kid a lunch. Well, what are you putting in the bag so he or she can have a healthy lunch? Because food is brain food, and you either get brain food that works and makes you a little sharper and smarter, or brain food that makes the kid sleepy, or maybe brain food that just flat out is bad. Now, I know that everybody wants to do the right thing for their kid, but sending them off to school with, a Snickers bar and a juice pack probably will lead to problems in the classroom. Junior may fall asleep at an inopportune time, and then you got other problems you got to worry about. So when people say you are what you eat, they're not kidding, particularly if you're a child and particularly if you're someone of a certain age. So what are you going to do? How are you going to make it good and healthy and also something you can do so you're not spending 4 or 5 hours a night preparing some gourmet food that might get traded for a Snickers bar or a juice pack? Standing by to weigh in on all of that is someone who knows how to live healthy. He is Jonathan Bailor. He's a father of 2, an executive producer of the new food documentary, Better. He's also a New York Times best-selling author. 26 patents is what this man holds. CEO of the world's fastest-growing evidence-based wellness program, SANESolution. And he joins us here on 700 WLW. And Jonathan Bailor, how are you on this glorious Saturday?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Well, let me ask you a quick question off the top. What is the worst lunch you've ever eaten in your life? When you were a kid, let's just say. What was the worst lunch you've ever eaten?
When I was a kid, I was actually pretty lucky because the vast majority of what's known as ultra-processed foods that make up shockingly 2/3 of our children's diets nowadays didn't exist. So, the worst lunch that was available for me and the worst lunch that was available for you, truly, chemically, was not even in the ballpark of the lunches that are being served to our children today.
Really? It's gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. Well, where's the science in that?
There is no science in that, unfortunately. I mean, obviously there's science in the chemical composition of food, but our food production or our food manufacturing, which in and of itself is an oxymoron if you think about it, has been outsourced to, for example, Philip Morris. Philip Morris, the same holding company that owns Philip Morris, owns Kraft and General Foods.
Yikes.
So we have delegated the nourishment of our children to the same companies who have targeted and, frankly, killed our children for decades until we intervened. And now they're just doing it with ultra-processed foods.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's start it there. Ultra-processed foods. You go anywhere. You go to a Kroger here in Cincinnati or a Meijer or any grocery store anywhere in America, and you'll see packaged meats, and they're full of nitrates and other things. So I would guess a good place to start, where if you want to get something good for your kid, is to start with something that's fresh and buy something where you don't have to read every single ingredient on the label behind what you're buying. Am I right there?
You're exactly right, and that's why you mentioned in my introduction we have this film with the Harvard Medical School called Better, and I really want to preface all of this with, the objective here is better, not perfect, because as a parent of 2 myself, it's so easy to get in this paralysis of, okay, so I have to buy wild-caught salmon from the specialty grocery store, and then it's just like, I give up, eat whatever they're serving at school. So look, when in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, and even in the 80s, before we had an obesity and diabetes epidemic, people ate cake. People even had an occasional soda, right? Those are not new things. What is new is 2/3 of our children's calories coming from ultra processed foods. Yeah. So like you said, like canned green beans, like hurrah, canned green beans. That's great. Like hurrah.
But we're laughing here, but it does. I mean, just think back to when you were a kid. I mean, I know for some of us it was a long time ago, but you had trouble staying awake in class after lunch. Well, why? It largely is because of what you eat. And if you're saying it's worse than it was when I was a kid in school, it must be pretty bad now, because all I wanted after lunch was a nap. Instead, I got math. But I think that therein lies the rub for a lot of parents. They want something quick. They don't want to prepare gourmet food. So let's talk a little bit about what they should be putting in the kid's backpack as he or she goes off to school for the day. Well, give us some things that might work to the kid's betterment that's not going to keep the parent up until midnight preparing it.
The first thing that I find to be most effective is to actually not be waiting till that night to prepare food for the next day. I find it to be extremely helpful to do what's called batch preparation. So I like to set aside some time on the weekend, maybe on a Sunday, and I try to assemble as much food as I can, because this grab-and-go dynamic is not going to change, right? We are going to grab and go. The question is, what are we grabbing and going with? So if I have pre-cut vegetables ready to go, far more likely to grab them than if I have to go, wash them, cut them up. It's not going to happen. I'm going to grab a candy bar. So the easier behaviorally, like we just need to make it easier for us to make better choices, and we will. If we look at the latest research, our children have actually dropped the percentage of calories they're getting from sweetened drinks by half. It used to be 11% of their calories. Now it's 5%, and that's attributable to two things. One is the increased cost of soda, and two, the reduced availability in schools. Simply by making it more difficult, we find alternatives. Kids aren't dying of thirst. We will do that which is easiest. Unfortunately, that's the nature of our species. So if we make better, easier, we win.
Yeah, and less sugar too. I mean, let's get right to the problem. Sugar is just horrible for you. It doesn't matter what age you are. We know that sugar is something that is just bad for your health, top to bottom. So I think that's probably not a bad starting point, right, for a parent.
Sugar is absolutely toxic. In fact, we've seen research that correlates the consumption of added sugar to the development of diabetes as tightly as smoking correlates with the development of lung cancer. So to the extent that we say smoking causes lung cancer, we can say added sugar consumption causes diabetes. But there's an additional point we need to understand, and that is that any form of processed carbohydrate leaves your stomach as sugar. So whether you're eating a bowl of cereal with sugar on top or a bowl of sugar with cereal on top, it is exiting your stomach as sugar.
Oh, man, you need to take this on the road. Jonathan Bailor, he's got this new food documentary, Better. Where can we find that, by the way, Better? It's a documentary. They didn't tell me where I can find it. Where can I find it?
The easiest thing to do is just to go to bettermovie.com, bettermovie.com, and all the places you can see it are right there.
And you've got 26 patents? What do you have patents on?
Well, I actually spent a great deal of my career working at Microsoft as an engineer, so quite a few of them are on esoteric technologies, but now we've shifted that to engineering better lives for people and especially our children.
So you're the guy with dirt on Bill Gates. Good, I'm glad I got you on here. No, in all sincerity, your work has been endorsed, implemented by doctors, they tell me, from Harvard, Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland, so you know of what you speak. Just, we've been talking about kids and putting it in their backpack. We don't eat well as a society in America, and I've often believed, my belief has often been that that's one of the reasons why we have a great deal of medical problems in this country, and they all seem to spin off of obesity. Would I be wrong in that assumption?
You're not wrong at all. We have seen a perfect correlation between what is known as the Western diet and the development of obesity and diabetes across the world, right? It's not just in America. Any culture that develops eating habits that, let's say, we pioneered. Not sure we should be proud of them, but we pioneered.
It's
they
us.
develop these epidemics. Right? We win. We are number one.
We're gastrointestinal pioneers. That's what we are.
But what's so important, the distinction here, and I love how you phrased it, is you said, we eat poorly. So we haven't actually been told that. We've been told we eat too much. And what we're actually seeing in the science is we eat too much because we eat poor quality foods. And that's why this film with Harvard Medical School is called Better. It's not called Less. It's called Better, because when you eat better, you automatically eat the appropriate number of calories, and your brain, body, and everything else works beautifully.
Yeah. Jonathan Bailor, good stuff. You can find Jonathan at SANESolution.com. And imagine when you get to there, you'll be able to find out more about the documentary Better and find out all of these esoteric patents that he has. I can't wait to just, I mean, at some point it sounds like with the patents and the documentary, you just might rule the world here at some point, Jonathan.
Well, my goal is to make the world a better place. So anything I can do to do that, I'm happy with.
Thank you so much for your time. Good luck. We appreciate it here on 700 WLW.
Thank you.